We are exploring the AI Rainforest, a space where we discuss a variety of intersecting topics like large language models, use cases, AI agents in Web3, reputation, and the innovative businesses and people at the forefront of this burgeoning space. Each episode features an expert in their field who shares their thoughts and opinions with us. Hello and welcome to another episode of Exploring the AI Rainforest. Today I am joined by David Phelps, co-founder of JokeRace, a platform that enables communities to run on-chain contests across many different blockchain networks. It's designed to help projects engage people, grow, and even monetize through gamified decision-making and participatory mechanisms.
Go.
David has also...
Wow, I'm hearing all that and I'm like, I think I need to figure out a new slogan here. But yeah, that'll work for now. That's correct. Thank you.
Okay, good. We're just giving overview, so that's okay. David has also shared interesting perspectives and interviews on topics like incentivizing participation without tokens, composable governance experiences, and bridging user-generated content with user-generated applications. David, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Pleasure to be here.
My pleasure. I'm glad we can make this happen. So let's get back to your roots. Can you walk us through your background and how you went from building, tutoring platforms like Forum
Yep.
to launching on-chain contest tools like JokeRace?
Yeah, so I don't talk about this a lot actually, because people don't usually ask me. But my previous company, Forum, we built the highest paying tutoring firm in the world, and it basically operated almost like a creative talent agency for top tutors. And so there's a lot I can say here about why that was really important to me and why it worked. But I think that the two key pieces that are probably relate most to what I do today with crypto are, one, the way that we did this was technology. So we were like the first users just about of Stripe Connect in like 2014 or so. And what that meant was we didn't have to have an entire office of, accountants who are all tracking invoices and, making sure that everyone is paying, which is literally how tutoring was being done 10 years ago. And actually it's still being done today. What we did is we just built out tech for like $10,000 that would automate the entire invoicing as well. And then we built apps off of that, and then we licensed that to other agencies as well. So the tech, meant that we could cut the traditional take rate of an agency, which was like 67 to 75%, and we cut it down to 15. Because we could automate all of the operations piece and just focus on client experience, right? And so I think that was like the first kind of big lesson for me was you read about this all the time of, disruptive tech that automates things and makes it more convenient and undercuts, middlemen. But it really was happening even, before crypto was mainstream, through stuff like Stripe. And that was the game changer that let us actually build something that was better for the people we worked with and who worked with us, because we could pay them instead of paying it to middlemen. So when I discovered crypto, it immediately made sense to me. In like 2017, I guess is when I got into Ethereum. I was like, yeah, the entire world will be run like this. The more you can cut out middlemen, and you can just have direct payments, then the better people are going to be able to get paid. The faster they'll be able to get paid, the more security they'll have. Like this all is going to revolutionize businesses to be able to build better businesses the way I did, right? So I think that's piece one. I think the other piece of it was really thinking about what it meant to build like almost decentralized kind of community. And I would say that I'm still learning how to do this, and this is still kind of a new playbook, and I've made many wrong assumptions and hypotheses and learned my lessons from them throughout time. But thinking, the way Forum was run was like we would take 15%, and then tutors would also have a commission as well for referring business to each other and supporting each other's business. So it was kind of like a proto workers collective where everybody could actually generate business for each other and then also benefit from that as well. And so it was really thinking, okay, like what are financial incentives, right, that you can have in place that will actually get people to want to work together and collaborate with each other as well. And so I think that's been a through line, through time I spent in DAOs, time with JokeRace now, is like really thinking like, what are financial incentives that actually you can put in place that will get communities to be able to operate in a way that is fun and meaningful for them socially. And I think this is still kind of an unsolved problem in crypto, to be honest. I think everyone kind of gave up on it after DAOs failed. And JokeRace was kind of born out of me watching a lot of the failures of DAOs and thinking, what's a more fun way to do this? I think that was one of the big impetuses. I'm only representing my side of the founder journey. My co-founder Siobhan has her own kind of amazing story, I think, for this too. But for me, yeah, those are really the pieces that like I feel like I've been obsessed with for like 10 years. And you know, look, we're watching an entire economy that the 20th century economy of climate career ladder has just completely collapsed. That is not an opportunity that is really open to people. So I
Right.
more and more really believe you do need structures where people can like come together and have fun and build their own kind of careers. I wouldn't say that's what JokeRace enables, but I do think it comes out of thinking like, what does it look like for people to have this kind of economic agency and autonomy they haven't had before, and like what does it mean for them to collectivize that and work together in ways that can be fun.
Fair enough. You mentioned some of your experience building DAOs. I have here in my notes that you worked on CowFund and EcoDAO.
Mhm.
Can you maybe dig into, let's say, maybe like your least favorite DAO story, and then we'll counter that with like your favorite, like best experience, whether it's a specific decision or project or
Yeah.
process that you guys are working through.
I mean, DAOs are painful as they should be. What's really cool about DAOs, there's a lot that's actually still really cool about DAOs, but one is just like to be able to speed run that many lessons about community formation with financial incentives that, just that fast, um, is almost unprecedented. And I don't think it gets enough credit that like people were able to fail really quickly, including me. And like that is huge. Like that's a major piece of innovation is like you need to be able to fail quickly and learn those. These are lessons that would have taken decades before, and instead we failed in a year or two. And I actually think that's a sign of progress, that we were able to learn that much. I think that the big takeaway for me that kind of led to joke race in some ways was thinking, why does nobody want to vote? Like why does no one want to come out in these communities and participate at all? And I think it's really interesting if you compare to something like Crypto the Game. Like Crypto the Game, people buy in this stake to be on different teams, and then every night the teams have to vote people out. And so it's really interesting because like if a team just doesn't bother to vote at all that night, like they have 100 people on the team, none of them bother to participate in voting each other out. They all will live. It's like prisoner's dilemma. It's like literally like all they have to do is not show up and not vote, and they will save their team and let the other teams all kill themselves off and
Right.
benefit, right? With tremendously. Like it helps all of them. It's not just that they're safer, they have more teammates. And yet no one ever does this. Everyone comes, they show up at night, they vote each other off, they hurt themselves, they raise their own risk of getting killed, and they hurt their team, and they build distrust. And the question is like, well, why you have this thing called Crypto the Game where like you're disincentivized from voting and everyone does it, and then you have this thing called DAOs where everyone's incentivized to vote and no one does it, right? And the answer really, I think, is gamification. It's like there or even tribalism, I would say. It's like people want to be able to play these games that are fun for them. And I think a lot of what happens in DAO voting, like the analogy I always give is it's like you have your team that you want to support and your team is that DAO. But imagine you go to like the football stadium and to support your team and they're the only team on the field. Like there's nothing to
I
do. It's
agree.
not very much fun, right? Like who are they battling? Like you're not going to come out and just watch them stand around and then declare that they won. What you want is Crypto the Game. You want to be able to come out and you want to be able to watch these battles occur where you can take sides, right? And you can join your own community and be part of it. And what's really cool, I think, with Crypto the Game also is like when you are coming out as a fan of your team or community or whatever, you're also playing the game as well as being an audience to it. And so I think like in my mind, it was like, wow, what we actually need is a way for these communities to form through friendly competition, and through almost like sportsification, right? Of like, you can't build a strong fan community if they don't have something to rally against as well as for. I think you see this all the time with like, Kendrick or Drake. It's like people only care about Kendrick and Drake if they're actually feuding with each other. Like they build a fan base by coming out against each other in the arena, right? And so JokeRace was really thinking, okay, like instead of thinking that a DAO is this, monolithic entity that has the complete consent and support of all the people within it, what if we actually incentivize division, incentivize people to start forming these sub communities against each other? And the actual DAO is this almost, substructure for these other communities to come in and be able to play against each other. And so that was really kind of the early formations of it, was thinking, okay, let's do the stupidest thing possible, have people come in and vote for bad jokes, and then they have to basically form a team in order to try to win that. And so
Right.
it will actually incentivize community formation because there's this gamification and sportsification process involved. And I think that part has definitely held true, increasingly, if anything, over the past few years. And I think has really been vindicated like as a cultural thesis. Now we have to vindicate as a product thesis. But that was, I think, really the original insight of seeing where DAOs were going wrong, if that answers
Okay.
the question at all.
Thank you for all that. No, it definitely does. It helps answer the question. I hadn't heard of Crypto the Game until
Yep.
now, so I just discovered season 3 just
Hmm.
finished, so I
Hmm.
have to go check that
Gotta
out
play.
later.
Gotta play.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, sure. If I if I can find the time, yeah. If I can find the time to not vote, yeah. Maybe I
Yeah.
will. Um, no, cryptothegame.com for anybody who else is interested. We don't need to dive into that here. That doesn't benefit me or you personally necessarily, or even that. Just kind of like a interesting aside. I hadn't heard of it, and so I'm gonna go check that out. And for anybody who was listening to you say it and we're like, whoa, what is this thing? Cryptothegame.com, and then
Mhm.
you could check it out. Okay, so I had a question here about the core problem you were trying to solve. That
Yeah.
obviously you 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 just dove into there. But I think we can still spend a little bit of time on the on-chain mechanics for Joke
Yeah.
Race. So, I've created a contest. I've gone through
Cool.
the process.
Cool.
Um, I think that was V2 already. But for other people, like, can you explain a little bit more of like how it all works?
Yep.
Like, what's the experience like for a creator first, and
Yep.
then for participants?
Absolutely. So the really big update, I think, is Vote and Earn, which we just launched about 5 weeks ago, actually. And so since launching it, since launching this about 5 weeks ago, we've generated close to like $2 million in volume, and uh, almost all of that going to voters, who participate. So the way it works is, you come to a contest, you want to vote on something, you can buy up as many votes as you want. Your money goes into a rewards pool, and if you voted on the winner, you can claim your share of rewards. That's the really simple way of putting it. The more complex version is there's a price curve on this, so you're incentivized to come in early and vote with conviction on what you actually believe, because you can earn way more by coming in early and voting. So if you come in early, it's higher risk, and higher returns. If you come in later, it's lower risk and lower returns. And so it's really conviction. I would say like conviction voting is really the incentive. What happens that's really cool is, like, because people come in early and they buy up votes, that goes to the rewards pool, increases the amount that's in the rewards. Then that incentivizes more people to want to come in, buy up votes, and participate in this decision as well,
Right.
because they can earn from it too. And I would actually say, like, the real problem it's solving, I try to stay away from that framework a lot, but if there is one, it's attention. It's like, it's really thinking like, what are the financial incentives that we can have here that are not just, profitable enough, but fun enough, right, to get people to come and pay attention. So like Avalanche, for example, just ran this giant community showdown for 3 weeks of the best projects in their ecosystem. And every day they're running contests that are one-on-one bracket tournaments. The winner then goes and faces off against the winner. And it's
Mhm.
really nice because everyone really stands a shot of winning, within a contest, when it's just one-on-one. And so they can get a lot of attention, and they have an excuse to go out and get their fan base riled up and supporting them on chain, and also earning from it, right? To come out and participate in these contests. And so almost the analogy, if we go back to that, like sports arena analogy, is like we're kind of the arena, and then Avalanche in that case is almost like the league. And then each of these projects are like the teams, if that makes sense. And so it went on for a few weeks, and then the final contest went over $1 million in terms of rewards for voters, from just that kind of flywheel that builds up with more and more people participating within a contest as well. And so, yeah, if this really works, it is an attention tool. It's a way to incentivize people to pay attention and learn about these projects, discover who they are, think about what matters, try to come in, take a position on who they want to support, so that they can earn from that and have fun doing it as well.
Okay. Um, so I mean, like that's a really good example there. Do you have? I mean, like you have an experience with, or like a past experience with DAOs,
Yep.
and we've seen many situations where there are some DAOs that work pretty well, and then
Yep.
there are other ones who obviously don't.
Yep.
Um, Typically because of lack of voter turnout. But I mean, typically if you're voting on something in a DAO, either it's to benefit the protocol or maybe you
Yep.
yourself, or like it's to move things forward some way, and therefore there should be some sort of somewhat clear tangible result that
Yep.
will maybe make your enrich you somehow, or enrich the protocol, and then maybe therefore you, regardless, like there's a financial incentive, but usually it's a little bit more intangible, or it's a little bit more in the future. Whereas on the other hand, like you're literally paying to vote
Mhm.
on JokeRace. Do
Mhm.
you see a potential framework for JokeRace to actually be just like a better version of a DAO, or at least to experiment with that specifically, where it's like,
Yeah.
I'm not voting based on like how many AVAX I have, right? To use
Yep.
Avalanche as an example, but I'm literally paying AVAX instead
Mhm.
to buy up votes,
Mhm.
and influence a decision that way.
Mhm.
Or do you, at least for now, see this primarily as like gamification,
Yeah.
attention getting, etc., what you guys are focused on right now?
I think it's an entertainment tool, to be clear. And like I do think entertainment serves a lot of purposes within social consensus as well. Like when I was originally starting Joke Race, what I was really interested in was people coming together and negotiating with each other to try to win, and having to
Mhm.
balance out, their own opinions with one another so they could collaborate. And this is completely blasphemous towards any traditional voting system, because traditional voting always believes you should have your own sacrosanct belief that is yours, that you hold privately and you do not share with others, and you don't negotiate or compromise that. And you come to the ballot box and you register that opinion. And what I was really interested in was the opposite. I was like, well, what if collusion is a good thing? Like what if having people having to come together and talk to each other and work and compromise and negotiate, like regardless of the decision that comes out of that, what if that creates a better community because they had more fun? Like it was more interesting for them to have to work together, right? And so I do think like entertainment is really undervalued as an important driver of community formation, and I think we see this all the time on crypto Twitter. At the same time, I would not claim that like the goal of this is the better decision itself. Because look, if you're running a DAO where you have to figure out how you're going to diversify your treasury, like you probably want to have some experts in treasury diversification who have spent years on the subject and are going to pour through the papers, and they're going to be the ones who make that decision. You probably don't want to just let any rando come in on that. But for other things, right, in terms of thinking like, what should our brand be, or who do we want to partner with, like stuff like that can be really fun to do in a way that helps build better community. So I do think, to the extent that like we're helping actually make better decisions, I would never claim that there is such a thing. I think it's totally subjective. I think the process by it is subjective, but I do think there's a way in which you're making better decisions simply because you're making a better community that's more fun for people to participate in, would be the only claim I would ever make to that. But no, I really do think it's an attention tool. And I think like part of what's fun with this is like whoever wins in first place, great, they're gonna, their voters will earn a lot of money. They'll go home, enriched by the experience. The main project will be able to go and claim that medal. But it's just as interesting to look at the project that came in like 6th place or 7th place that no one heard about before, and now they have attention, and now they're on the leaderboard, and now people are talking about them and looking at them, and they can see who their supporters are. And maybe 10 years from now, you come back and you look at this and you say, wow, that one that came in first was a project that died or grifted or scammed and no longer exists. But that project that came in 6th or 7th is actually one of the biggest protocols in the world. Let's look at who voted for that and who supported it early on. And like
Right.
now, actually, they're building out their own on-chain reputation, right, in a meaningful way as well. So I think like all of these kinds of considerations are much more interesting to me than the idea there is such a thing as a best decision. I would say we we take a constructivist approach to truth, which is like it is a construct that people create, and we want to be a way for them to create it, if that makes sense.
All right. I'm going to jump a little bit ahead here just
Yep.
because you just mentioned potentially building up your on-chain reputation.
Yep.
And obviously, I would be remiss to
Yeah.
not mention, Zero Z Score and what we're building. And so, I'm just going to skip a whole bunch of stuff here
Cool.
because you've already touched on a lot of it. Um, it's really easy to create, especially these days, personalities, tokens, wallets, on-chain activity even,
Yep.
and basically generate, a false sense of importance or reputation online. We've seen a lot of attempts since 2017, which is when I got into the space as well, to create decentralized identity platforms, wallet scoring, credit scoring, and basically other reputation attempts. Obviously, Zero is trying to build their own with Z-Score. We think we've got a really good solution in place here. And I know the founders have run, lots of different ideas by you. How do you think about reputation in Web3, the opportunities, the threats, and where we're headed? You just touched on, using, I guess, voting signals
Yeah.
on JokeRace as a potential source for that.
Yeah, I mean, there's all different types of reputation, right? There's financial reputation. Are you able to repay a loan? There's social reputation. Are you a trustworthy actor? Do you betray the people that count on you? There's, prediction reputation. Are you really good at seeing the future and predicting it well, right? Traders, in some ways, I think are really in that kind of field. Uh,
Right.
so it all depends on the use case and what you're interested in. What I'm interested in is entertainment and social, right? In a lot of ways. And so I think about reputation really is thinking like, what are social graphs that can be generated off of people sharing their beliefs and interests online in ways that can allow them to meet other people who share their beliefs and interests online. Which for me is kind of the original goal of the internet, which is like you can come onto this, piece of glass every day as a total freak, and you can find other people who are total freaks just like you are around the world, right? And connect
Yeah.
with them. And I think that's really what the internet's been good for from day one. Um, that's what crypto Twitter is, right? It's a bunch of freaks around the world who all share this weird belief system. So like I'm interested in how reputation actually incentivizes that on a personal level, but it definitely can do a lot more than that, in other ways too. I think especially with stuff like ZKTLS, like being able to have credit scores that you don't have to reveal, but you can still attest to, like all of that is pretty game changing too.
Okay, that's fair. Is like, do you have plans? And it doesn't have to. You don't have to name names, obviously. I'm not
Yeah.
trying to hold you to anything, but like, do you have plans either to make sure that the data that JokeRace is generating ultimately gets fed into some reputation system, or vice versa, that somehow you're incorporating um, past voting data, other entertainment, fun type data into Joke Race somehow as either part of a profile
Yeah.
or maybe part of like a weighted voting mechanism or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, a great example of this is Mega ETH did this not quite drop, but they did this NFT sale, and so the NFT
Right.
sale was for people who had used specific apps, and Joke Race was one of them, and they went through a bunch of contests to actually show who the voters were who had participated in this, and the entrants as well, and that's really cool because that was permissionless. Like they have all of that data on chain. And so I think a lot of times we underestimate that like the blockchain itself is a reputation protocol. Like it is literally open source data that is being validated, stored, saved, right, for eternity for anyone to be able to access and build on top of. And so just that composability of a blockchain already means that anyone can build reputation tools on top of us, right? Without even needing to talk to me. Like, if they want to talk to me, that's great. And we can add an extension and, encourage more people to start adding on those kinds of tools. But yeah, anyone can go and just pull that data. We have Dune dashboards on our site already so that people can come and see everyone who voted for them, which is a very simple version of that. But
Right.
yeah, I like to think, like, well, 5 years from now, what if you can go and find somebody who voted for almost all the same things you did and, hundreds of contests about your favorite music or your favorite books, whatever it is. And now you can start building out these other tools um, that socially are really interesting, I think, as well, for people to find, discover, and meet each other too.
Okay, cool. That actually does bring me back to another question I did want to ask. Like JokeRace has integrations with some other platforms. So, what kinds of automations or DAO workflows, or other ones like the one Mega ETH did, become possible when you get your content result, or your contest results can trigger on-chain actions directly?
Yeah. In terms of, yeah, what can be done, I think I gave some examples just now of what you could build in terms of, on the reputation side. But yeah, you could think about, like, someone could add an airdrop tool, right? And then suddenly say, hey, if you voted for me, I'm gonna airdrop you my token. I want to support you, preferably after the fact, because otherwise they're gonna start to run into, I think, some potential issues with that. But yeah, they could build stuff like that. I think people could build mini apps on top of us as well. Again, just being permissionless and open source, like all of these things, it's really important to us on a values level because it lets people, start to imagine things they could do that we can't even think about. I think one that I've kind of fantasized a lot about is like having mascots or agents that battle each other and they each have a
Mhm.
treasury. And then they're trying to get votes, and if one of them beats another one, they take its money, right? Like they take its lunch money. And you can imagine someone could like whip up smart contracts on top of on top of the contest, so that whoever the winner is, it's already, the money's in escrow, it automatically goes to that address. And you can start doing things like that. And you can imagine splits. We've had prediction markets built on top of us, and they resolve the data fully on chain. So people are taking positions on who they think will win a contest, right? And then that's also really letting it's almost like a leverage mechanism, for them to be able to earn a lot more as well. So yeah, it's pretty infinite, I think, in terms of like what can be done.
Okay, cool. All right, I know we only have a few minutes left here. Well, you got a hard out soon, so I want to talk about AI a little bit.
Cool.
I know that Joke Race doesn't have AI built in, and
Mhm.
I don't know if it's on the roadmap at all or not, but I want to find out about your own personal opinion about,
Mhm.
I guess, some of the LLMs we have available, we have access to now,
Yeah.
um, image generation, video generation. How do
Yep.
you feel about that? Do you use any of them yourself on a daily or weekly basis at all?
Yeah. So I made a bunch of videos. If you check our highlights reel and you see on, for example, the price curves, I did that. Not 100% with AI. I don't think that really works for artists to do 100% with AI, but I generated the characters and the movement and the motions with AI, and then I plugged
Hmm.
that into After Effects and did a lot of the kind of manual tooling of how the lines and text move myself. So yeah, this is an unpopular probably opinion in creator communities, but for me, like AI in some ways it's kind of similar to photography, whereas like this thing came along as a technology, artists all got really sensitive about it because suddenly it was very easy for anyone to produce something that had taken them a lot of time. And when they produce it, it's very impersonal. It doesn't really look that good. And so they start saying, where's the aura? Like, there's no aura here because this looks like shit. And that's true, right? Like, when you democratize something to millions of people to use, most of them are going to use it badly and most of it's going to look pretty bad. And so I think we're seeing that with AI. Like, most AI art is pretty terrible, just like most photography is pretty terrible. But as a tool that, you could potentially use or that lets anyone create something, I think it's interesting personally. And I have a lot of other issues with AI. Things There's a lot on AI that I'm negative about. There's also a lot on AI that I'm very positive about. And so I think it kind of depends on use case and also the user. in terms of what you're doing with it. I don't. We would never, I think, vibe code anything internally, like smart contracts, like that. That stuff needs to be a vault. You cannot be risking that in any way. But for stuff like image creation, it's like you can take tons of risks, right? Like you can try lots of things, and I think just lowering the barrier to creativity, I'm generally in favor of. It's definitely I would say with my artist friends, this is quite controversial, and not all of them share my opinions on this. But I've definitely enjoyed using it. It's been personally helpful to me.
Okay. Give me one thing you're really negative on, besides
Yeah.
coding smart contracts.
I think the thing that worries me most about AI is what happens when you mix it with surveillance.
Mm.
Like the ability to catalog anybody, right, immediately and recognize who they are and then start creating profiles about them. Like, it's one thing for a surveillance state to put up cameras everywhere, but if no one can watch all of that video and tag everyone, it's not that meaningful. It's another thing once you add AI to the mix and suddenly you know who everybody is and where they are at all moments, right? What their social connections are, where they go, and it really does kind of 1000x surveillance at a moment in time where government is becoming much more draconian in cracking down and tracking people. So that part scares me a lot. I think the ways that it can be utilized by states within almost like a seeing like a state kind of vision. For me, that's actually probably the scariest piece about AI that no one really seems to care or talk about.
Yeah, no, I think that's incredibly fair. I'm actually going to be in a little over a month. I'll be visiting one of the world's most
Yeah.
surveilled cities
Which
for
one?
the first time. So, and I
Oh, yeah.
London.
Yep.
Yeah, lots of CCTV. I don't know if the UK or even the city of London's government is sophisticated enough to put together even an RFP to bring in an AI at this
Yeah.
early stage, just because government is government and they're incredibly slow typically. But yeah, totally understand that. And it's one thing for you to have a CSI type environment where it's like, okay, you know, we're gonna find this person. First of all, you probably need to find
Yep.
them manually. Okay, fine, we found them manually, and now we need to hopefully do some pattern recognition on their face and like find all these other things, all these other instances where they've appeared on CCTV in the last 48 hours or whatever. If you have an incredibly good image recognition model that can do that, in half the time in or 2x faster, 10x faster, 50x faster, etc. Um, and maybe even match that up with stuff online. Yeah, you're in a bit of a different ball game there,
Big time.
um, on the surveillance side of
Big
things. So
time. Yep.
yeah, I get you. Okay, well, let's balance that with one thing you're more positive about, and then we'll
For
let you go
AI.
here.
I
Yeah.
creative stuff, honestly. I think the ability for any 16-year-old to go and create stuff has just exploded in the past 20 years. And crypto is a version of that too. Like the ability to have open source contracts that anyone can build on top of is really really powerful, right? And so there's this interesting thing where you have crypto that's just generating a lot more open data and then AI that's feeding off of open data as well to create things. And there is this
Mhm.
almost synergistic kind of flywheel between them in terms of like what it empowers people to create. I think like overall AI, it's very easy to miss how AI works just like every other technology has worked, which is that it democratizes something that was held to be an elite skill that people really valued and trained at. And now opens that up to the
Right.
masses in a way that's kind of crass and not becoming. And it's hard not to be classist sometimes. I think about it. Like in my mind, it's very similar, like to what happened with cars and horseback riding. Like horseback riding was this elite kind of skill in many ways. I mean, cowboys did it, but it was often gentry, right, as well. And you had to train for it. And then cars come along, and now suddenly anyone is able to get anywhere, right? It's not just getting faster; they're faster than the horse. It's also the fact that you can get there. That this is accessible. With
Yeah.
and then it produces roads, right? And it produces all these new forms of communication that really kind of democratize travel, right? for people. And what you lose is you lose the skill of horseback riding and the beauty of being in nature, and you replace it with gas guzzling, giant steel traps that crash into each other all the time and kill people, right? Like, so depending on how you look at
Right.
that trade-off, like, you can come down on either side and be like, cars are the worst thing that ever happened, cars are the best thing that ever happened. And I think most technology is like this. Internet, I think you could say, is the worst thing that's ever happened, is the best thing that's ever happened. I think AI will probably be similar. It'll be really horrific in a lot of ways, and it'll be really wonderful in a lot of other ways, precisely because it is democratizing something to a lot of people who no longer need to have any skills to use it. And that's both very good and very bad, I think, in my mind.
Which, and I've said before in the show, and I'll say again, which I think then starts to put more emphasis on human creativity and more value on stuff that is handmade, that is handcrafted, that did, came out of somebody's mind and into their hands directly, as opposed to, a photo that was taken compared to a painting, an oil painting, or a handcrafted story compared to one
Yeah.
that came out of an
It's just
LLM.
it's just that
So,
it also becomes a
um,
more refined luxury activity for a few people, who still do the handcrafted thing,
yeah,
and I think that's part of the trade-off that's a little tricky too, is, what no one wants
yeah.
to ask right now is, well, why do students need to learn how to write? Like, what is the reason that students need to learn how to write if they are good enough to use AI to get it to write for them? Like, why do they still need to be writing essays? What's the purpose of this when they're gonna have an entire life where AI can do that? And I can give lots of answers about how important it is for critical thinking, etc. But it's a terrifying question to ask, which is to say, maybe we're moving towards a future where you actually just don't even need to know how to write any more than you need to know how to horseback ride by 1920. And it's scary, right? Because I think we all do value writing a lot. But I can also see it becoming increasingly a kind of luxury activity for a very few set of elite gentry who are able to go to the private schools where they learn that ancient craft of writing. So we'll see what happens.
I will say, I think you and I both live in countries where there are plenty of people who don't
Yeah,
value writing.
nobody knows how to write anyway, even before AI. So, like, you're giving them a tool where suddenly they can produce beautiful words and they never could before. I think that's the hard thing to kind of ask, and that's what I mean, that there is some sort of elitism a lot of times embedded in our descriptions of
Right.
these technologies. At the same time, the democratization can often mean the original skill is now only available to a very elite class, and so I don't know. I think it's about trying to weigh those two things against each other.
Fair enough. Okay, let's wrap this up with a little bit of self promo. If people want to learn more about JokeRace, where can they go?
JokeRace.io, our website. We feature contests there, so you can always see new contests. Voting times often are short, so a lot of times in contests they run 2 to 4 hours. So also following us on Twitter, JokeRace_IO, and getting notifications about contests that are coming up is a good way to plan for them. Also, if you want to vote and earn.
Okay, okay. And what about if people want to see more about the types of things you're saying
Oh, they can
online?
follow me if they want, my, depraved, deranged ravings at divine_economy on Twitter.
Awesome. All right, David, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it. And to everybody listening or watching, thank you very much. And we'll see you next time on exploring the AI
Thanks so much.
rainforest.